Hello and welcome. This is Rooflemonger. My friends, we have even more Street Fighter news to give you. This time via a Famitsu interview with the developers of Street Fighter 6. I will post a link in the video description to the interview itself, although fair warning, it is Japanese, right? So you're gonna have to use some machine translation if you want to read it in English. So I will post a lot of the Q&A, also some standalone tidbits, but before any of that, I do want to talk about what they mentioned about the drive gauge system, as I think that's very important. So about the drive system as a whole, it was stated here in the interview, they wanted to have more character individuality than Street Fighter V, while still keeping possible all the things you could do in Street Fighter V. Therefore, the drive system effectively exists as a common system. So that means every character, no matter what they can do and what the character's about, their archetype, every character will have access to a strong attack in the drive impact / focus attack, strong defense in a parry, and also everyone having the ability to do canceling, like special cancels, normal cancels through the drive rush technique. So everyone, no matter what they can do, that is as like basically a base level, everyone has these options available to them. Basically, the drive gauge is determined by the player's playstyle, giving it some personality. And from later on in the interview here, some people will use the drive system to quote-unquote attack hard, like go crazy on EX moves, overdrive moves, and that'll be the focus of the drive system for them. Other people will want to use a lot of drive rush canceling to eliminate gaps in their offense, get special combos. Effectively, how you use the drive gauge, be it, for offense, defense, all points in between, it will be different person to person, and they want this to be basically an element of how you express yourself in the game, and I think that's just great. I made a joke some videos ago about, maybe this is how they solved the character expression problem, and turns out, yeah, actually, that seemingly is enough what they're actually going for here. If you get two people playing the exact same character, thanks to the drive system, and how everything works underneath it, basically no two people will play the two characters the exact same way. So that's kind of problem solved, I guess. Now that as an upfront here, let's get to some of the questions and some of the answers. So question number 1, in Street Fighter V, the V trigger was the exciting moment of the match. What about Street Fighter 6? And answer is Street Fighter 6, your Super Art 1, 2, and 3, the whens, hows, and whys of using them, that will be the quote-unquote exciting point of the match, how you utilize your super meter and your super arts. Question number 2, drive impact, the focus attack, and the parry seem really strong. And the answer to that is yes, they are meant to be powerful. However, they cost drive gauge, and paying drive gauge to make a strong action is something both players have the option available to do, and it's very important to do it. They both add a layer of psychological warfare to the match. So basically saying, yeah, they're strong and we want them to be strong, which, fair enough. Question number 3, basically stating that they were not able to super cancel into drive-based EX special moves, right? And they say it's still under development. As it currently stands, if you do an overdrive, aka an EX move, you can specifically go into a level 2 super, but not a level 1 or a level 3 super, but everything is subject to change in this current state and current build of the game. The next question here is Street Fighter V, the V gauge, was designed around getting hurt / taking damage, so the exciting stuff in the match basically happened in the second half of the match when people are starting to get hurt. Now, drive lets you do stuff from the beginning. Is this an intentional decision? And the answer is effectively yes. Other than having access to super moves, your meters at the bottom, the idea is for the user to do whatever they want to do without any limitations from the start of the match. So if you want to do a combo with multiple EXs, if you want to parry, focus attack, do dash canceling, all that, you can do that from round 1 fight go, like 99 seconds left. So other than supers, the idea is you have the entirety of your moveset available from the beginning of a match. So you don't have to wait till the second half for things to get exciting. Next question here. Metro City is seemingly a large focus, so will there be more Final Fight characters in the game? Answer to that is, well, they can't answer that. Street Fighter and Final Fight are indeed the same universe, and the World Tour mode, that's like the open world, will have a lot of Final Fight-like taste to it. Next up, just to make sure here, is Street Fighter 6 after Street Fighter 3? And yes, definitively, it is. Street Fighter 6 is the latest story in the series, and we are moving on to the next era, says the developers. So, no more in this forever limbo of worrying about if Street Fighter 3 is the final point. We are definitively past that. Street Fighter 6 is the new endpoint, story-wise, of the franchise. Next question here, basically, inferring, hey, Chun looks pretty good still, right? I thought we were a couple years after Street Fighter 3. What's her birth date again? And the answer to that is, well, Ryu often feels old. That's the answer to that. So I'm going to chalk that one up to effectively a deflection of that question. Next, we have a question here. Street Fighter V has operated for many years. What about Street Fighter 6? And the answer to that is, getting people to know about or getting people into Street Fighter cannot happen in a short time. We want people to play for a long time, so we would like to take the time to provide a sufficient amount of content. We want you to see that we will support you firmly. We all have a love for Street Fighter, and we want this to continue for a long time. Effectively, I think they're trying to say, yes, Street Fighter 6 will have support for years to come. This is one of the few things I'm not too worried about. Capcom's really good on that front. Street Fighter V, that came out in 2016, and that came out at the beginning of 2016, right? And it only, quote unquote, ended new content just very recently. So I think Street Fighter 6, no worries, it's going to have a long life ahead of it. And our last main question here for this video, when can the general audience, get their hands on the game? And they state here, Japan or overseas, meaning everywhere else but Japan, I don't think it's that far away. So wait for an announcement. That's pretty cryptic. I do like the words not far away. I'm a big fan of that, right? So I'm thinking perhaps Evo timeline, maybe a beta. That'd be awesome. That's speculation, so if it doesn't happen, don't point your guns at me, right? But I like that term, not that far away. So we'll have to wait and see on that one. So that's the Q&A. That's not every single question. So if you want to run through a machine translation, once again, the full interview, you can find the link to that in the video description. And now I just want to go over a couple tidbits and notes also from the interview here, because some things I find pretty interesting. Specifically talking about the World Tour mode. That's like the open world where you can walk around Metro City kind of stuff. So the World Tour mode, as they state in this interview, is designed to ease people into the game. There's lots of gimmicks and, tutorials and all that just to make sure you understand how fighting games work. And the Battle Hub is the next step along the line here to get people to interact with other users and get in touch with just the community as a whole, but maybe you're not quite ready just to go into ranked mode. Now, they don't go into the details of that, right? So who knows, but I guess Battle Hub might be more like a social space than just a purely matchmaking kind of deal. It says here, content will also be specialized for communication before proceeding in the competition, which is a pretty loaded sentence, I guess, but hey, that's how they say it. So I guess it just might have some, mess around modes here, chat with other people. It'll be interesting just to see how that all turns out. It also says here the Battle Hub will also have info on esports. So, gotta have esports, right? The World Tour mode and the Battle Hub are designed to let you enjoy Street Fighter from various perspectives other than just directly fighting each other. Besides that, they do state here there'll definitely be 60 frames per second gameplay across all systems it'll be launching on. So good to know, I guess, right? It would suck if it was anything else. So the PS4, even if it's going to be the old busted version of the game, perhaps, you'll still get those 60 frames per second. Although, fancy and stuff like, 4K, perhaps better particle graphics, better stages, all that stuff will be on like PC and PS5. As for the roster, they do say here as well, they are intentionally pushing a new generation versus old generation split across the roster. Other things here, punish counters are effectively intended to be the same as crush counters. So punish counters are, well, exactly that, right? Instead of a normal counter hit where you hit the person out of the startup, you're basically hitting the recovery of the move. That is a punish counter. And we have seen certain moves gain new properties when you do a punish counter, like say you block a reversal uppercut, that'll be a punish counter, right? So you'll get your big, fancy combos perhaps from there. Also, finally here, just talking about the burnout state. So the idea they state here is the drive mode is your concentration. So when you're out of drive, your concentration is less. So now that's why you're susceptible to things like taking chip damage, getting dizzy, all that kind of stuff. And a big thing here, which we'll have to get our hands on the game to like really figure it out, but a big thing here is apparently frame data changes when you're in the burnout state. They don't go into depth what changes, but they consider it an added layer of depth. Now, is this like a big deal, a little deal? Like if your entire moveset, the whole frame data changes, that'll be a really big deal. Maybe it could just be like, you know, a counter hit is +2 frame advantage, right? No matter what your base frame advantage is. So maybe in Burnout, you always have 2 less frame advantage. Who knows? But it's just a big deal. We got to get our hands on it. But the idea that they're willing to play around with the frame data as a whole in any aspect at all when you're in the burnout state is going to be pretty big. And that's about the long and short of it for now. Once again here, a few days back, they're like, hey, you know, we're going dark. Don't expect anything else. And we keep getting more and more and more news. And I'm a big fan of this. So if this is what going dark is like, man, can't wait for them to turn the lights back on because it'll just be overwhelming. So other than all that, make sure to keep tuned with the channel. I'll be posting any and all Street Fighter 6 news as the time comes. And hopefully, like they said earlier in the interview, maybe sooner rather than later, we might be able to get our hands on it. And hopefully that's in form of like a beta or something like that. But until then, we're at the end of the video. So thank you very much for watching. Hope this video has found you well. And go out and play some Street Fighter.